Hello, Haizhen log 71. So I've been making a lot of videos on TikTok recently. Took a break from the daily vlogs and reflections here, and I just started doing the thing. It's a message that I've been sharing in different places when I feel called to. And it's interesting to me, the gap between understanding and knowing what to do, and then being in that place or that energy of being able to do the thing. It's a lot of duality, dichotomy, where it's easy to understand something, to read something and understand it intellectually or rationally and logically. And even when all of those things come together and everything is pointing to the place, to the thing that you need to do, it's still possible, and sometimes easy in fact, to get stuck. And that's completely natural, because when you're learning about something intellectually, you're learning it from a mind perspective. You've collected information. The teaching of things is often procedural. It's often like something you have to understand and create a narrative for in your own experience. And until you've had the experience of actually doing the thing, you will not know what it feels like to do the thing. And without doing the thing, you won't feel like you can do the thing. I think that's where that idea of do it scared, do it even if you feel like you're not ready, where all of that comes from. Because there's no other way to do it. If you want to wait until you feel ready to do something, good luck. How long are you going to wait? How will you feel like you're ready to do something without actually doing it? Well, it's actually easy, because like you could literally feel however you want to feel right now. There's this sense that things make us feel certain ways. And it's true. You sit and view a beautiful sunset, and you may feel at peace, you may feel relaxed, you may feel nostalgic. And at the same time, you want to feel like crap. You can think about all of the terrible things that happened today. Maybe someone cut you off. Maybe you were sitting like in traffic and stopped at a green light because there was no place to go. And looking in your rear view mirror and seeing the person behind you throw up their hands in a fit. And how you feel about that is a choice. It's an unconscious choice much of the time, when you don't realize that it's a choice. There's a TikTok that I made today about spiritual awakening, and that the awakening process is a process. It's not a one-time thing. The time when people have a spiritual awakening and feel like, oh, like I'm different somehow, when that has the most contrast, it's usually the time that people can point to and say, look, this is the time when everything changed. And that's absolutely true. The other side of that is knowing that there is more to learn, more to experience, more to see, and more to wake up to. When I chat with Christian. She talks about her awakening story, and on her podcast, she'll talk about, there's an episode or two where she talks about her journey of her awakening experience. And I listen to that and I find it just so fascinating to hear the process and experience of another person. It made me think about where my personal experience, how all of this got started for me. How did I end up in this place of doing this particular work, of being here in this space on YouTube? Like, what am I doing here? And if I were to look back and think to the first time that I woke up to something, the first thing that comes to mind is when I was a child. At the age of 3, I was watching a television show, a kids television show, on one of our local television channels here, YTV, channel 25 at the time. There was a segment on memorial trees where the tree was dedicated to somebody who had died in memorial. And it hit me that someday I was going to die. And then that cascaded down to, there are people in my life that I love and care about that will one day not be here. I thought of my parents, I thought of my grandmother, I thought of all the people that were close to me at the time. And immediately that was my immediate family unit. And waking up to that fact was a lot at that age. It came and went with me, and it affected me for a long time. To understand, to look at the world and look for meaning in it when knowing that it was going to end. It was an interesting process because I spent many years thinking about this over time. There were times when I would imagine what it would be like to no longer exist. Because at the time I was in a space of, I associated with the idea of atheism. I couldn't see a God. I couldn't understand anything outside of this realm of science, of observation, of just physical being. And yet I knew that there was something greater than that, bigger than that, but I wasn't sure what it was. In my family, we come from Vietnam by way of China, and their belief system wasn't a specific religion. It was more of a folk religion, which centered around ancestor worship. So we would burn, it's called joss paper. It looks like money, and you burn this for your ancestors to give them money, to provide food for them, and to take care of them and honor them. That was the ancestor worship. So I remember a time when I was imagining my ancestors and relatives that had passed on, that had died. From there, I moved on to understanding the world through that lens for a long time, and knowing that there was something more. And that's part of the awakening process. Because when you wake up to something more, then you begin to realize that there's always something more. So the idea of being in spirit, being more than you are, being a drop of consciousness from the greater vast ocean of source, however you want to think about that, really is a description of the different types of analogies or metaphors that people have used in the past to explain the existence and these ideas, these things that they become aware of. So how is the awakening process not a single event? It's because we come from a place of infinite potential. So when you think of it from that perspective, if there's infinite potential, there are infinite things to view and to observe. So when we look at the planes of existence, when we look at our human experience, we can look at it in one way. And at the same time, all of the other experiences, all of the other ways that you want to look at something also exist at the same time. So when you have an experience of, say, you're working in a job, you're doing something day in, day out, and suddenly one day you wake up and you're like, I can't do this anymore. What changed from yesterday to today? It's simply your perspective of it. You've opened your eyes to a new perspective. And sometimes it's as simple as that. The Haizhen log, Haizhen, the brand. This is a process of waking up to seeing that potential. And when we use words like seeing, it has a physical connotation to it. Like, I need to see a brand, a logo, a website, a YouTube channel to make it real. But really what the seeing happens is more of a perceiving, a perception. Perceiving the feeling of what it means to be in that space, to be ready to do the work, to be ready to engage and facilitate transformation. And the nuance there is to actually do the transformation is actually something that I have practiced. I've had sessions with people, I've done the work, I've had results, various different people working on a whole range of things, whether it's from personal confidence, before interviews, whether it's on specific anxieties and frustrations, all the way to things like snoring and teeth grinding, where those symptoms are communications from our unconscious parts that come up to the surface. The thing that's not familiar is the idea of self-promotion, the idea of marketing, the idea of putting myself out there and saying, hey, I can't do this thing and I can make this change for you. And getting to a place where I feel that I can say that is a place that I'm stepping into now. Because it's that thread of connection between the understanding and then the knowing, which becomes the unconscious. This is the way that I've always moved. Because what is it to take on something unconsciously? It's to be able to do it without thought, without thinking. So just like you can roll out of bed and walk to the bathroom in the middle of the night without too much thought, the act of doing is one way of getting to that place, because now you're putting yourself in a position to be vulnerable, to open yourself up and expose all of the different things that you have thought and overthought about again. And getting to that place to where you can feel into something, where the feeling is just what's there. It can happen through the act of doing and learning from a physical perspective. And at the same time, another way into it is simply to feel that way, to imagine what that is, and to just tell yourself, yes, I'm ready. I'm going to go out and do it. And then all of those things align. And this is like very similar to the idea of awakening. You're spending more and more time awakening to new perspectives. There comes a point in that awakening process where sometimes people will get to a point where they feel like they have awakened. It's like a state that they're in now. Like, I am an enlightened being. I am the one who can rise above it all. The human experience is not about rising above anything. It's about experiencing, sitting in the physical and observing it through the spiritual. To have that observer fully engage in the life that you're living. And then when you can understand that piece is when you can begin to live the life that you want to live. The funny thing is, those signals are always there. They're always being presented to you, put in front of you. Your unconscious is always going to tell you what's best for you. And sometimes we take on patterns that are not useful for us in the present moment, but at some time in the past, they were very helpful. So when we approach and address current problems with previous strategies, previous patterns, that's where the disconnect happens. That's where I wonder sometimes, why am I still in the same place? How is it that I'm still living out the same pattern over and over again? And realizing that is another piece of that perspective that I'm waking up to, that I'm opening my eyes to. And that's where I'm at with this. This whole process over the last 2.5 months has been a process of witnessing, of seeing more perspective, of seeing myself in a different light, seeing people respond to me in a different light. And somewhere in that almost like 2-month mark, there was a flip. If I were to point and pull it out, it would be somewhere in there where I began to feel more relaxed, where I began to actually feel like it's okay, where it didn't matter anymore what other people thought. It didn't matter if I checked for the notifications, check the app, check the analytics. It didn't matter if it was one person that watched the video. It didn't matter if it was 5 people that watched the video. It didn't matter if there was engagement or no engagement. Because all of that was my process to get to this point. So for you out there, what are you? What is it that's keeping you stuck? The funny thing is, you know the answer to that question. To get out of that pattern from inside the problem can be challenging. And that's where someone from outside, a coach, a mentor, a mirror, that's where that role becomes so important. And that's what I'm putting on offer here. The best way to experience something is to experience it directly. To just do the thing. So I'm offering 10 spots. I want to do 10 sessions at a reduced rate. So check the link down below in the description. If this is something that interests you. If you've been stuck and if you've been thinking to yourself, how can I get past my problem? If you're tired of being stuck in the same problem over and over again, if you're tired of thinking about what you're going to do, if you're stuck at the point before action, this is for you. This is for you to understand. So check out the link in the description. See what this is all about. Hit me up.